Hello and welcome to a Let's Play slash maybe instructional video of Hearts of Iron IV, where we are going to be taking our own shot at history. And it is a bit of an overwhelming game to get into, but I am a huge fan of history in general and this era in particular. So I hope you will join me on a journey where we will do an Ironman, no save scum and playthrough of a World War II nation we'll kind of pick when we get to the menu, and I can talk through some of the basic principles of this game and hopefully maybe get you into it. I am playing with just a handful of DLCs. There's a ton for this game. It is a Paradox game, which means that they are going to try to hold you at gunpoint and take your money. So I've tried to really stay away from most of the DLCs if I can. I think I basically, if you can see here, I've basically won Man the Guns, which expands the naval warfare aspect of this game, but there's stuff for spies and all kinds of other stuff. So at your own discretion, check that stuff out. So anyway, we're going to do a new game. We're going to start in the 30s, the lead up for the war. And we are going to be Germany. Yes, we are going to play as the Nazis, Adolf Hitler, all that jazz. For a couple of reasons. One, this era does mostly focus on Germany and their decision making, which as a result, a lot of the gameplay mechanics revolve around what we can do. We really control the scope of the game. So, I kind of hate to say it because it shouldn't really be this way, but Germany is one of the most engaging nations to play with in Hearts of Iron, at least if we're doing a historical, no-botted run-through, just because of the way they designed the game. So that'll be who we start with. Who knows? There might be other playthroughs, and we'll do other nations some other time, but we'll get our start here with the Reich. So we will select them. We will be doing just regular, nothing too crazy, but we will do it on Ironman. Again, no safe scumming. We're just going to take our best shot, shoot our shot here, and away we go. Oh, wait. Oh, and we are not going to check historical AI focuses. That means there will be some dynamicism here. It will not necessarily be a super historical recounting of World War II. We'll start on that same footing and situation, but who knows what those wonky AI will decide to do. And we will try to pull a few strings as well. So off we go. We will call it Ironman, German Reich, LP. Let's play. Alright, here we go. Alright, so we're coming in here and we don't have any time started. In fact, this music is a little bit annoying, so let's turn that like way down. Oh, that's better. Now I can hear myself think. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take a little look around before we even unpause the game timer. So here we are, the German Reich, 1936. And let's just go down the line of alerts we have. We're not even going to worry about these other icons yet. We're not even going to worry. We're not at war with anybody, so all of our little troops and ships and things out here, it doesn't matter. So let's just start with research, maybe one of the easiest and self-explanatory panels here. So we have a couple of slots that we can spend on research. And then once we click on those slots, we have areas to research. We have infantry, we have companies and support stuff, we have armor, artillery, general navy, naval support, air, engineering, and industry. Generally a good idea to start with industry. That's just my philosophy, because that's kind of the backbone of the nation. If we don't have a good industry, it doesn't really matter how well equipped our troops are if we can't make the guns or equipment they're going to use. So we'll start by getting some basic machine tools. Let's work on some construction. That stuff takes too long, so we're not going to worry about any of that stuff here. Another general rule of thumb is if something's under 200 days to research, it's worth researching, but if something's north of that, it's just not worth the time investment until later. So let's take a look at the engineering tab. We can research nukes. It'll just take us a few thousand days. Let's go ahead and do electronic mechanical engineering. And let's see, can we do anything for air? Not really right now. We'll ignore the Navy. That's historical for Germany. And artillery's tempting. Armor, not so much. Again, just because of the time, infantry is always good to do. Let's get MG08. Let's get those. Okay, we got research queued up, squared away. Next up is what are our factories going to do? So this is where we have a tab that overlooks our nation, and we can decide what to build. And it breaks down into essentially two things. Military factories, which produce equipment for the military exclusively, and civilian factories. Civilian factories, I don't think I 100% totally understand. Is somewhat ambiguous, but like the tab says, they make stuff for people, you know, like toasters and you know, I don't know why that jumped to my mind so quickly, but you know, light bulbs, things like that, stuff for just regular everyday schmoes to use. These civilian factories boost our overall economy and production. Of course, they do not directly make military goods. We can convert them later if we need to, and they are always a great way to get started. So we're gonna go ahead and click on those, and we're just gonna start building a couple civilian factories. We'll spread them out so no one area gets too oversaturated. We'll just do kind of the heart of Germany right here with some civilian factories. And then we'll follow that building spree up with a couple, just a handful here of military factories. And then we'll just kind of see where we're at, and we'll just kind of pause. So that'll be that for now. Now next up, maybe we got our military situation here. What is our military factories that we already have? What are they actually producing? So we got them making infantry equipment, which is great. Support equipment, towed artillery, light tanks, a whole mess of things. Unfortunately, this tab is kind of meaningless without knowing our overall logistical picture. So we're gonna open up the logistics tab. As you can see, we have many little icons for troops here that already exist. These divisions, and tank division, and you know, alpine troops, regular infantry, that kind of stuff, motorized infantry. They all need things to even exist and be out there and train and just walk around. So here we can see two rows of what's happening. One is just what we have in stock. So we have like one single artillery piece in somebody's garage. And then the next tab over is, or the next column over is how many of those we produce per day. So every single day, some German people are putting together about half an artillery piece. We are making 53 guns a day, about 2 trucks a day, etc. So we have only 53 guns sitting in a garage right now. What we want to do really to start things off is to just max out our guns. Let's just build those rifles. So okay. Support equipment is also another big thing. Support equipment, trucks, these 4 things: artillery, infantry equipment, trucks, and support equipment. Those are pretty top priority because pretty much all troop configurations to some extent need those things. So let's go ahead and do a full row for our support equipment. Let's do maybe a full row for artillery and a full row for those trucks. In here we can see the resources needed to make each of these individual items. Some require rubber, and that's the big thing that we actually don't have here in Germany. And you can see we're actually at -5 for our rubber. We're okay with other stuff. We have some oil, lots of steel, aluminum, tungsten, all that good stuff. We really are worried about rubber though. So let me just queue up what a couple more of these factories will do once they get built. We'll eventually want some planes. Okay. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now let's, before we get any further down this road, let's go ahead and solve that rubber situation. So we'll go over to trade, where we'll click the rubber tab and just see who's willing to trade it. Oh, the Dutch, of course, because the Dutch are out there exploiting vast regions of Central Africa. Hello, hello. So we will we'll take a little bit of that rubber. How about? Well, let's not overdo it. Let's just take. We'll take 16. Here we go. And now the Dutch will like us a little bit more. All right, we're gonna go ahead and unpause it just for a second to make sure that trade went through. There we go. Now we have 11 units of rubber. And then we'll pause again because we have one last extremely vital thing to do before we just sort of watch things happen, and that's to pick the focus of our nation. This is kind of the hallmark of Hearts of Iron. We're going to pick our flag, and we're going to select a national focus. This is where we can influence the course of history. Every nation, or at least most nations, have unique trees and diagrams for their focuses, and they all take a couple of months really to do. So we have the 4-year plan where we can start to rebuild our economy since it is the 30s, so the whole world is coming out of the Great Depression. We have innovations that we can pursue. We can immediately jump into politics and demand, as Hitler was known to do, just demand parts of other nations. Or finally, down on this wing, we can even oppose Hitler if we want, but I'll try to be a somewhat historical player. Or we can try to rebuild the Navy. So what I think we're going to do is we're going to do our first 4-year plan here, which was something that the Nazis did when they first came into power in the early to mid-30s. It was very well known for not working. A lot of people think the Nazis knew what they were doing when it came to the economy. Turns out they didn't. But oh well, they tried. Okay. And that's really all we can do for now. So we're just going to let the clock start to run at about the most basic timestamp while we get further organized here. Next icon is saying that we're missing equipment production here to fulfill these templates that are already being made. So we already have things that use transport planes and naval bombers, and we are producing none of them. And frankly, I'm not worried about that. We don't really need transport planes right now or naval bombers, so we're just going to forget about it. We have no divisions in basic training. That'll become a problem. Well, I guess that is a problem right now, so let's go fix that. Let's go to recruit and deploy. Let's train up 1, 2... How carried away do we want to get? Maybe let's start with 2 infantry divisions, a motorized division, and a elite mountaineer division, and a panzer division. That's pretty good. Now, the reason why I'm not just spamming a bunch of these divisions is because each of these divisions takes equipment to train and then get in the field. And as you can see, our equipment production here is pitiful. Even just starting training for those divisions, now we're suddenly in debt. 3,500 guns because we owe all those divisions that production. They need that equipment to even begin their training. So our numbers looked okay there for a second when we first started the game, but now we're in the hole by about 3,000 guns, 46 artillery pieces, all this stuff. It's all red, 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 red. So we're just going to start by having these guys train. Eventually, we'll hopefully power up the war machine. We'll just select where they'll appear once they are finally trained. But yeah, it's going to take some time. And it's all about production. So we'll just let them do their thing. Another piece of the puzzle up here is we have outdated equipment in production. A Type 2 Klasse and a destroyer. But those are boats. And again, we're Nazi Germany, so we don't really care about boats. So we're going to ignore that. We also have some unassigned divisions. This is our next big step. where we are going to organize just these floating troops we randomly have out here into some fighting units. So here we go. Let's start with the easy one, which is our tanks.
Befehle.
That's just going to be one whole dedicated tank wing. There we go. Boom.
Achtung!
Next, we'll highlight just a bunch of troops.
Bereit.
And motorized divisions, why not?
Angetreten.
Just going to mix them all together, and that'll be one army right there. And then we'll take another group here, and that'll be another army. That's pretty much, I think that's all our guys. Oh wait, no.
Achtung!
You guys
Achtung!
join our big army. Who's left?
Angetreten.
Some people up here.
Angetreten.
You can join. Let's just. Well, you can join that smaller army. There we go. That's everybody. Okay, so that's all for now. So they're organized into their army groups. What else have we missed? Oh, we have some decisions. So every nation here has this little justice hammer, so we can make some decisions. Every country's decision making is a little bit different, because every country's a little bit different. Here for Germany, we have the MIFO bills, which is how in the 30s the German government disguised their rearmament post-World War I. So post-World War I, Germany was basically taken apart, the German Empire, and many, many restrictions were put on it in terms of what they could produce for their military. And to disguise the fact that the Nazi government was rebuilding this army, they basically made a bunch of shell corporations and disguised their payouts to those shell corporations. So they had a bunch of these factories and companies that would make like parts of a submarine but in bits and pieces, or they would make parts of like rifles or tanks, but all separately, so that there was a very confusing trail of money that other nations, if they looked into it, it would be hard to follow. And these were called MIFO bills. So the German government is paying a bunch of companies to make little bits which, when we put them all together, make arms. So our MIFO bills are no big deal right now, but they take a little bit of political power for us to keep signing away every time. Since the German government has no real money that we're allowed to spend on rearmament, these are all loans, which is why it takes political power. We're just making promises to these companies. We're saying, yeah, once we start fighting all the countries, that's when we'll pay you back. So right now, these are just loans that we're signing away, which is why it takes political power to convince these companies to keep making our weapons. So we're just watching. We're not gonna cancel the MIFO bills because that would put us in deep doo-doo right away with the other countries. They're gonna hate us. So we're just going to let the MIFO bills sort of build up, and when the political weight becomes too heavy, we'll cancel them. We can also demand that the Dutch trade with us, just to sort of influence their internal political sphere. So we'll do that. We'll bully them. We'll be the schoolyard bully there. And then we can take these other little actions down here, which will influence the political slant of our country. I don't really feel like they're super necessary, even at other later stages of the game, unless the situation's really dire. We don't need to worry about that stuff. Let's take a look at our political slant, though. So here in our little bubble, you can see, because this is Nazi Germany, we are predominantly fascist. Although a fairly surprisingly large piece of the pie is communist-leaning, the KPD, and we still have a little holdout of the Zentrum, or the Democratic political party there. So we do have to be aware, if we want Germany to stay fascist, it's not all completely fascist. We do have some groups here that could gain a little bit more power. We have our MIFO bills here. We have a couple other little bonuses, like our general staff, where we got a really good German general staff, so everybody's very organized and good at planning. And we were a sore loser of the last war, so that means that people are pretty locked in to us being fascist. Later, when we get more political power, we can acquire advisors and stuff like that, change a couple of things about our country, like how our conscription laws are, or how mobilized we are. That'll all come later. Let's see, is that it for our grand tour? We have our decisions, we had our research. We haven't really looked at diplomacy yet. We did trade, we did construction, production. All right, officer corps, we'll look at that later too. So we covered most of these icons right here. Hopefully for you, if you've never played Hearts of Iron before, this will help you get a little bit grounded. Of course, we haven't done any combat yet, but this is our lay of the land. Maybe before we end this first intro video, let's take a look at these icons up here, which are basically like our resources. If any of you are coming in here from a Civ type perspective, first of all, I want to say good job putting the Play-Doh down and welcome to the real world. And second of all, I'll say they work in a similar fashion. So up here we have political power, which is very versatile. We can use that to influence other nations. We can use that to have more politicians on our general staff or cabinet. Over here we have our internal stability. This, again, we can't just change it like a slider, or we can't just enact some policy that says, oh, this happens to our stability. I mean, that's pretty rare. So this sort of just wanes and peaks with our general decision making. Same with our war support. Again, the higher the war support, the more effective our military economy will be and our troops will be in combat. But again, it's not like we can just make a slider type decision. These are all cumulative resources that get impacted based on our general decision making. So we have to try to guide the nation kind of like a big ship of state through these changing currents of history. Ooh, I like that metaphor. This is our manpower, which is very important, maybe one of the more straightforward icons up here to understand. We have basically how many people we can force to join our military. So our nation's population overall is way bigger than this number. This is the amount of recruitable people, so that is people, or I guess males, between the ages of 18 and, you know, whatever the general cutoff is for conscription, like probably like age 30 or something like that. So we can see that we have 1.29 million young, mostly single men that we can force to kill each other. So of that number, we have about 300,000 actively in the army. 260,000 are in the field right now. 42,000 are training. Those are those divisions that we started, you know, training just a second ago, who need all our new guns and things. We have 34,000 in the Air Force, 20,000 in the Navy, and none are garrisoned. So that's a general breakdown right there. These are our factory counts. So we have 28 military factories, 10 naval dockyards, and 34 civilian factories. So just a general information about our kind of urban capabilities here. This is how much fuel we have, and it's just going up and up and up, which is great. If a war starts, though, and suddenly all of our motorized divisions start driving around, and we have ships, you know, steaming or whatever they do to get from point A to point B, our fuel is going to go down, down, down. So fuel is huge. We need to really be aware of where can we get fuel, who can we trade from. We have to be very particular about who we go to war with and when, because this is all going to impact our fuel and our trade for oil. Our logistics, this is just if our troops need the supplies, are they getting it from trains, are they getting it from trucks, are they getting it from the air? Of course, right now our logistics fulfillment is perfect because we are not at war with anybody. And these are our naval convoys. Convoys are needed for basically doing the trades like we just did with the Dutch there for their rubber. 5 of our 200 starting convoys are out there right now in the open seas trading with the Dutch. We can't really track them. They're not really a unit that we see, like, you know, steaming from one port to another. We just need to be aware that they're out there. And if we were at war, a rival navy or our navy could stake out a couple of these squares to hunt for convoys. But again, it's not really like Civ or some of these more dumbed down games where we're just like, oh, I see the one trader icon and I'll go kill it. It's not really like that. We just have to scan these grid squares with our combat units and hope we bump into convoys eventually, because there's so many. It's really hard to quantify. We need to be able to just catch them and filter them through our net and keep producing them if that happens to us. Finally, the last icons over here, we have our red telephone. That's command power. We use that to hire generals or upgrade them. We have our army experience, which we can use to adopt new doctrines for our ground forces. Same for Navy, same for air. Alrighty. In a nutshell, that's our crash course, our 101 on Hearts of Iron here. Just an overview of the icons and what we're about to do, what we're about to get ourselves into. And I think in our next part, we are going to really start moving through history. We've been sitting here for just about 20 in-game days, which is nothing. So we'll end things here. I'm trying to think at what rate we'll save and maybe end our videos. Maybe roughly every month or two or whatever feels about right. Don't want these videos to go on too long, but again, this is just the start of our journey. So I will see you in the next video where we'll pick things up looking into the month of February. What will happen next for the German Reich. I will see you then. Goodbye for now.